You have just been invaded by...
Hey there guys, this is DJ Slope from Slope's Game Room, and you're listening to Slope's Cast, the retro gaming news show recorded live on Twitch with my co-host Grizzly Crichton. If you like the podcast and you want to be in a chance to be on a future episode, then please do consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member. And if you have any particular news stories that you would like us to cover in a future episode, then please do let us know in the dedicated rooms over on Discord. Plus, if you are listening to the podcast on any of the many podcast services around the world, then please do give us a little review. It really does help us spread our wings and get into the earlobes of plenty of other podcast goers. Anyway, enough of the plugs. Let's get on with the show. Hey there guys, it's Slopes Cast time, and we've got 6 topics to be chatting about today. We thought we'd sort of nail it down because we were talking quite a bit about all of these different topics, but you know, there's just so much to talk about this week. And well, Grizzly, why don't you tell us briefly what these 6 topics are going to be tonight?
Okay, so coming up today on the Slopes Cast, we have Valve creating their version of the Switch Pro, aka the Steam Deck. We have a new War of the Worlds inspired game to look at. Double Fine championing the easy mode, flying in the face of that Get Good crowd. Evercade rolls out a new collection, which is always a fan favourite of the Slopes Cast. A YouTuber creates the first nuclear Tetris handheld, and Japan does possibly the most family-friendly copyright thing, and actually looks at some decent copyright law changes. All of that and more to come in this week's Slopescast.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, looking at those 6 topics you just mentioned there, I actually think this is a nothing but a positive show. It's all positive tonight.
It is. It's great.
We haven't got any negativity tonight, which is good. You shouldn't spread negativity. We should spread good vibes, and we've got 6 good vibe things to talk about tonight. That is unless you're a Nintendo fanboy. What was you doing on July 16th at 6 p.m, Grizzly? Was you pre-ordering the Switch OLED?
Most definitely not.
No. What was you doing with your time at 6 p.m. on UK time on the 16th of July?
Instead, I was reserving the Steam Deck after watching and going, that looks interesting, on the 15th of July when Valve announced it. So let's just go through what this actually is for people who have been sleeping. The Steam Deck is a handheld PC. It runs the Zen 2 architecture chip, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, it's as powerful as a PS4 or Xbox One in handheld formats, and you can take it around and play PC games on it, emulation. You can basically install anything that a PC can onto this thing. And what's good as well is they've kept it realistic, because, of course, you're not going to get like AAA 4K gaming on here. They've done it on a 720p screen, so it means that even that chip can run the majority of PC titles on Steam, which is brilliant, to say the least.
Absolutely.
Great looking piece of kit. I know that myself and Dan have pre-ordered one, the 512 gig version. So that, what are you looking forward to with this, Dan?
Well, I'm just so excited that there's, I mean, it's not technically a new juggernaut entering the video game market, but in my mind it kind of is, because it takes me back to when they were doing the Steam, what were they even called, those Steam consoles that they were trying to do, the little mini ones that didn't really take off.
The Steam machines. Yeah, Valve has a bit of a shaky past with hardware. That's fair to say, I think.
I jumped in and I bought that Steam controller, and I was like, wow, this looks so exciting, and I just couldn't get used to it. It felt so strange and so weird to me. I did give it a good go. I think it was actually one of the earlier videos I did on my channel doing a little review on that, actually. But yeah, so for me, it's the fact that we've got this this awesome looking system, you know, and I know we cried and moaned about it in the last or maybe 2 podcasts ago, talking about the fact that everyone's crying about the fact that there is no Switch Pro announcement. And, you know, really no one's to blame because it's just, you know, it's just constant people just spreading that news for the clicks essentially. And I'm not just talking about YouTubers, I'm talking about articles, news articles, all that sort of stuff. But, we've kind of got it. And as you said, it's not the 4K system, but I'm going to be getting a system it's actually I'm getting mine at the early next year because I wasn't quick enough. Yeah. But I'm getting a system at the beginning of next year that's already got 500 odd games on it in my library. It's exciting.
If anyone here plays on PC, have a quick look at how many games you've got on Steam, and chances are you've got enough to justify purchasing one of these things, I think. I think mine's currently at 800, and that's just full of indie games which will run perfectly on this thing that I've just collected over the years from Humble Bundle. In fact, most of the games that are appearing on Switch as brand new indie releases are currently being sold dirt cheap on Steam or in Humble Bundles. It completely supersedes a lot of what you see on Nintendo platforms. I mean, if this is successful, and let's just be optimistic and say it is, this could heavily disrupt the handheld market.
Big time. And I would be very nervous if I was Nintendo on Western shores for their Western gamers.
Yeah. And when we're talking about, like, I know a lot of people are making jokes about, oh yeah, it's basically the new version of the Atari Lynx or the new Game Gear. Nothing really beats Nintendo handheld, which is yeah, it's true. But what's important is things like market share, and I think Steam Deck has a potential here to really take the show, because people do want proper handheld controls. They want a bit of power in their handheld rather than playing on mobile phone. I could totally see this paying off. And it seems that the lowest SKU, which is the 64 gig model, which I wouldn't recommend anyone buy, by the way, because 64 gig is not nearly enough. It does appear to be sold at a loss, like the flagship consoles like PS5, Xbox Series, and Nintendo Switch, all of which are sold at a loss so that they can sell more games as opposed to more hardware. I feel that they've pitched this just right. So much so that they've sold almost over 150,000 units in the first few days of reservations.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've stopped them. They've stopped reservations for the moment. And I'm just seeing on the screen right there, Factorio, or Factorio, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely adore that game. Being able to play that on the move, it's just like, oh my god, it's very exciting. I'm still going to collect for my Nintendo Switch, and obviously this isn't going to be a Nintendo Switch killer, because Nintendo, as I always say, the same with PlayStation, have those exclusives that make those consoles worthwhile getting. I still don't think, even though I've got this incredible system with incredibly cheap games, just constantly right there, I'm still not going to be able to, I'm still not going to be ever playing a game better than Mario Galaxy or Pikmin, or, because I'm that type of gamer. However, I adore indie games and the odd third party game, and this is now the system I'm going to be buying those games for, on top of all the ones I've already got. It's very, very exciting. I'm all about this. I'm very surprised that Xbox didn't jump on this.
Well, that's the beauty of it. They don't need to. This is the perfect Game Pass handheld.
You can get Game Pass on this?
Yes, you can. You can use PC Game Pass as part of your Ultimate subscription, and it's good to go. You can play Xbox games on the go.
It's exciting.
So they don't need to make the handheld. They just wait for something like this to be created and say, yep, we're compatible too.
There we go. Yeah. More of a console gamer myself than PC. Rainer, I'm completely with you. I've got an insane library of games on Steam, and probably like the 99% of people, 99% of those games have never even been installed. And the reason I'm more of a console gamer is because I don't like sitting in front of my PC playing games unless they're an RTS type game, which I don't really have the time to be sitting in front of my PC and playing. So this is like the ultimate way of playing those PC games that I've bought and never purchased. That's just how I see it. I see this as a console more than a PC. I'll still think that the fact that I've got my PC upstairs and I've got this as a console. That's just how I'm going to see it in my head. I'm just so excited. There's someone that's really disrupting the gaming market. Big time, because I see this as more of a disruption than any of the new consoles that's come out of the last generation, of this current generation, PlayStation 5 and Xbox One Series X. These are just the next leap for those brands, for Sony and for Microsoft. But this is something, wow. Kind of like how Nintendo did with the Switch. Like they completely, whoa, what are they doing here? And the way Nintendo did with the Wii, these sort of things. So this is an exciting new thing, and I'm all about it. Look right there, Portal 2 in handheld mode. It's just gonna. I complete that game every year, and I'm gonna hold off and not do it this year just so I can play it next year on that, because that'll be one of the first things I complete. I freaking love that game.
There's a few things to take into consideration with the Steam Deck, I think. I mean, it's not all sunshine and roses, so like as excited as we are. Battery life doesn't look that hot. We're looking at anywhere between 2 and 8 hours worth of gameplay, depending on how strong the gameplay or whatever it is that you're playing is going to be. That was about what I expected before I went in. I mean, at least they're being somewhat realistic with that estimation. I just hope that the battery's up to keeping alive for a longer period, so we're not changing it or having to replace it within a year. The other thing is, of course, we talked earlier about the low SKU being at 64 gigabyte, and I've seen a few messages in the comments asking about, well, why can't you just buy the cheapest one and then upgrade it with the SD card memory? The problem is with SD card memory is SD cards are quite slow, slower than typical hard drive speeds, and that's definitely not something you want to be running GTA 5 on. Whereas the upper SKUs, you're looking at an NVMe SSD drive, one of those really small form factor ones. Now, there has been a bit news about whether you can upgrade that, but it's in no way confirmed.
But it wasn't that one of the creator has said that you will be able to on Twitter or something. I've heard of someone. Again, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
They haven't talked about that and announced that, and I suppose they would be a bit stupid if they did. Here's the free models. By the way, you can upgrade any of them. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you an extra 200 quid because I can just chuck in an SD card, an SSD myself. So, it's all up in the air. But yeah, I have gone for the top tier 3 model myself.
That's have I.
Tier 2 and tier 3 are the same type of hard drive in there, just double the size, and the only difference is that tier 3 has an anti-glare shine, which some people actually may prefer to get that middle tier to not have that anti-glare shine, because I know a lot of people out there see that doesn't give you that crystal crisp sort of image. For me, I want to play it in my garden, and that's never bothered me, because I literally put one of those anti-glares on my son's Switch, and I don't see the difference between my Switch in handheld and his. Like, they look exactly the same in my eyes. So I'm happy with the anti-glare glass that they're going to have on the top tier compared to second. And
anti-glare's good if you want to look at dark content in a sunny garden. Yeah, because it'll block out all of that external light, or it'll do its best at least to reduce it. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I went for it. It just seemed like a bit of an upgrade. Would have been nice to have an OLED screen, lol. But I'll deal with an LCD for some battery life.
Someone else is doing something with an OLED screen. I think I can't remember since this was announced. I just. All that news just shot out of my head.
There'll be nobody's. Yeah.
So there we go. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm just so happy it's someone else, and I see that as a fourth main competitor. This sort of thing is never a bad thing for the gaming market. I wonder if this will actually disrupt Game Pass, because I know everyone loves their Game Pass, but like games on Steam are so dirt cheap all the time. is why, you know, I don't know. I know you're
If
like
anything,
a big thing of Game Pass. A good,
Yeah, if anything, I can see it gaining more subscriptions as a result. I mean, Game Pass on PC alone is $3.99 a month, and you get a lot for your money. You know, as much as I didn't like Microsoft's entire strategy last generation, I feel they've smashed it out the park with Game Pass. It's one of the greatest deals in gaming right now, and I don't mean that to sound like a shill or an
I know you love it. I don't have it, but yeah,
I think it's great.
I've had it free a couple of months and I've never downloaded one game using it. So I was just like, you know, it's not for me. I don't have the time to warrant using it. It's like having a Netflix subscription but never turning your telly on. That's how I was using it. You got to use it to appreciate it. Exactly. So I mean, there's nothing really else to say. But hey, there's Valve are releasing a handheld PC.
Yeah,
it is kind of a PC. It works as a PC in a sense, but I still see it as a console. It's exciting, very exciting.
It's a handheld PC. What has buttons on?
There it is. Yeah, I wonder if that's what we've written on the box. It's a handheld PC that has buttons on.
Yeah,
Valve Steam Deck.
That's the way.
Moving on to topic number 2. Now, for anyone that's watched my channel, any of my live streams for the longest time, because it's a while ago, will know I'm a big fan of anything to do with War of the Worlds. I did an entire history piece based on the history and the games of War of the Worlds. I talked about how it came about, the original book, the original stories, movies, that sort of stuff, and then how that translated into video games. Unfortunately, the majority of video games are not good. The latest one, Grey Skies, has now become a little bit of a let me press play on this, has become a bit of a meme, jokey thing amongst my commenters. Whoa, there's your
Red weed. Yeah,
there it is. Exactly. It had potential and it was so bare bones, and I hated saying it, but guys, it was so rubbish. So there's an indie group of people that are making a sort of a fan game. This isn't official or anything like that, and it's using the Half-Life 2 engine, and what you're seeing on the screen right now is it. It definitely doesn't look like a AAA title, but it looks the best War of the World games that we've had so far, so that gets me excited. You should be excited because War of the Worlds is awesome. I still wish it was set in like a sort of a World War One-esque setting. But hey, yeah, you can't. Beggars can't be choosers. It still looks good fun. As for people that are listening rather than watching, when you're running along and you actually see that the enormous shadow of the tripods walking towards you, it looks scary. This is a game I'd want to play in VR. I think it would be very exciting to play in VR, and I see no reason why they wouldn't add that, if I'm honest. I mean, it doesn't look.
I mean, the
AAA, but it looks good. Sorry, go on.
The footage is clearly staged, so it's just like a small snippet inside a very small town with a series of tripods and what looks like flying machines as well. Yeah. In the background, and they've got like the tentacles that pick up the cars, the people, and you can see the death ray raining down on people, and some very, very funny sound. So ragdoll physics.
Yeah. Reminded me of that flat out game for the 360. You remember? Yeah, those Destruction Derby games.
That's the one. But this, personally, I really like the approach, even if it was just like a machinima, like a TV show built out of a video game. It would be ropey, but I quite like the designs of the Martian machines, and they're touting this as a bit of a survival experience where you need to travel from one end of the country to the other. That sounds cool to me. I think they might be being a little ambitious, judged by just how little ropey some of the visuals are, and the pop in of like tanks that we're seeing on the screen. It's not the prettiest sight, but it looks cool, I've got to say.
And you got to give them respect, because this isn't going to be an officially released game. You're not going to be seeing this in your PlayStation 4 library or whatever. This is just a group of indie people that are fans of Half-Life 2 and War of the Worlds. Because you've got to mention Half-Life 2. Not only are they using the engine there, I believe they're using the engine, but they're also taking inspiration from that as well. Yes,
This is
it's
exclusive to Steam Deck, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely exclusive to Steam Deck. I will be playing this on my Steam Deck. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Any love that goes towards War of the Worlds is good for me, and this is good. This is good. Now, hopefully, someone can actually pick up the license and do a proper game.
Sorry, just to mention as well, I think we've mentioned War of the Worlds, but not the actual title of this game. It's called Interlakes for anyone that's interested.
Yes. So Interlakes is a game being developed by indie studio team Revived. It's an open world sci-fi third-person survival shooter game inspired by War of the Worlds and games such as Half-Life 2 and The Last of Us. Interlakes, you explore a vast and beautiful world invaded and in the verge of being conquered by alien forces. We aim to improve aspects of survival genre. Yeah, bring it on. I'll chuck down a few quid for this on Steam and have a little live stream of it potentially on my Steam Deck.
Yes. That's the way.
It's exciting. I've always got time for more War of the World stuff. But anyway, that's I had to add it in there. I know it's not big news, but if it's War of the World news, it's getting added into this. And that's why it's in here. Thanks, Grizzly, for making sure this one got added in.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. We're just watching a little demo here of how tripods attack humans, and it's actually quite smart. So it's picking up cars and selecting little targets on the ground, targets being humans, to do as much damage as possible. And if it gets close to them, of course, those tentacles will grab the humans and then either enslave them or, throw them against walls. But I like how the physics are working, even if it does look a little ropey. So
yeah.
Bit of fun, I think.
Bring it on.
ULLA.
Andy Norton, yes, I get Half-Life 2 vibes when watching that, especially those Martian designs. Absolutely, yeah. God, I need to play Half-Life 2 again. Maybe I'll play that on my Steam Deck. Enough about the Steam Deck.
It's not even out yet.
Let's chat about Psychonauts 2. Because this is a game that you're very excited about, Grizzly.
I cannot wait for this game. In fact, a lot of the previews, early previews, in fact, we're watching a trailer on screen that I have not yet seen. I really should have done. But Psychonauts is one of those platformer games made by one of my favorite developers, Double Fine and Tim Schafer. Unique brand of comedy, unique visual style, unique everything about this game is unique. So what's special about Psychonauts this time is that not just the mind-bending gameplay, it's about the difficulty mode. So Tim Schafer and Double Fine have installed a invincibility toggle for players that are, probably a bit less skilled, or you might have some difficulties with some games for whatever reason, and those reasons are valid. I hate to say it to all the hardcore gamers out there, where they can just play through, enjoy the story, and just play without any fear of consequence, losing lives, or just having any problems with the games overall. It's a very similar approach to how Nintendo added the golden Tanuki suit in Mario 3D World or 3D Land.
Exactly, that's what comes to mind when I heard this.
Allowing children or, gamers with, either disabilities or just unable to get through the game under their own steam, a means in which they can just play through and enjoy. I think that's really cool, personally. Some people call it the journalist mode. I see you, Dutch chairman, in the chat. We all remember that Cuphead incident, but no, I personally think this is a great idea. Because it doesn't affect me, right? Because I will play the game through as normal. I want to play the game as probably the developers intended, where there's a little bit of threat and damage to it, because Psychonauts can get a bit freaky at times in terms of scares. I want there to be a bit of challenge to go with it, but that doesn't suit everyone. And I can fully appreciate it if people need that extra leg up to be able to play the game. But of course, it opens up that debate again. Do you add an easy mode to Dark Souls, which is a game that is designed to be difficult? Or, games, accessibility in games shouldn't be as hotly contested, I believe. But unfortunately it is, and we can already see in the comments that some people disagree. So
it's yeah, I mean, Rainer puts it there. What did you see? I just scrolled up. Let's have a look. Rainer actually read there. I'm fine with there being an invincibility toggle and assist modes. Not everyone has the time to game and just wants to have some fun when they can, nor is everyone able to do as well as others. It's exactly right, because I tell you what, the main argument that I normally hear from people that don't want an invincibility easy sort of mode in that sense are retro gamers. Now, when you look back, the reason why a lot of retro games are hard, not in every case, but you know, some games you need to master because, you know, they're good games, but the majority of the time, if we're going to be real with ourselves, the reason why these games were hard back in the day were because there was only really about 4 levels. And, you know,
yeah, and,
I remember never getting to the end of Terminator 1, and then when I finally grew up and I did, I was like, oh, I was actually only 1 level away from the end level anyway. You know?
Yeah, that, and the developers didn't want you to be able to complete it in a rental.
That's right,
they wanted
right.
you to keep playing and buy the game, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm for it. You know, I've got a son, and we play the same games that I will complete, and he won't. And Mario 3D World is exactly one of those examples where he did use the Tanuki, whatever it was, suit, one or two of the levels. But you know, the way I see it is, I'm never going to pick up a game like this, go to difficulty, and turn on easy mode. Just the same way I'm not going to go into options and put on invincibility mode, because it's not, you know, I just don't play games like that. Like, the same way I don't go the other way either. I don't put it on ultra hard just to make the game extra hard. I play the game as it's intended on normal, and yeah, I don't change around with that. That's how I play it, but I understand other people may want to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see Psychonauts is Psychonauts, the original game, really excelled in the story department, but there were areas of that game which were either way too cryptic in certain cases, or just incredibly frustrating, like the Meat Circus level. If anyone remembers remembers that game, knows exactly what I'm talking about with the Meat Circus. So to know that there's going to be a way to go, right, okay, I really just want to see the next cutscene, because look at the stuff that's on the screen right now. It looks amazing.
It's a beautiful game.
You know, I just want to see everything that this game has to offer, and I don't want frustration to be an underlying factor of that. Will I use invincibility toggle? Probably not.
No.
Might I go down to easy if normal proves a bit too difficult? Probably, because I just want to play through. But yeah, it's one of those things. Everyone's mileage is going to vary, and I don't think anyone should lambast people for using invincibility mode if they really feel like they need to. Because at the end of the day, it's a single player game. You're not competing. Nobody's being cheated out of anything. Enjoy the games as you like it. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm seeing Artificial Fox there. I don't mind easy modes and accessibility, but a full-on invincibility mode does seem too far for me, for Artificial Fox, and you know, that's fair enough. You know, I don't care, because I'm never going to use it, and I'm happy if people do. But yeah, I take it on. And our poll, yay, everyone's picking it up. That was the end of that poll. People are picking up Psychonauts 2. So, moving on from Psychonauts 2 to the Evercade. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
We like the Evercade.
Good old Evercade, yeah.
In fact, I got a little delivery only last Wednesday or Thursday, I believe it was, and I've now completed my collection. That is all 18 games so far released. The last few I was missing: Worms, Indie Heroes, Pico 2, and Jalico. I didn't have the Jalico one, which is one I really wanted. So yes, there's a new collection coming out now. You know, we don't talk about every single release they put out, but this is one of the reasons. I think this particular collection is one of the reasons as to why the Evercade is just so loved. When, yes, you can emulate this stuff very easily on an old PSP or whatever else, because, you know, these are, for the most part, 16 and 8-bit games. and for me, this shows why this system is so good, because yes, you get the obvious games that I've played 1,000 times, your Oliver Twins collections, and there's Pac-Man games on earlier collections and Atari games, whatever. But the list of games that we've got here, I'll read them out to you. From Renovation: Arcus Odyssey, Beast Wrestler, Dino Land, El Viento, Exile, Final Zone, Gares. I can never say that right. There's a special way you have to say it. I remember the adverts in the old Sega magazine.
Gaiares.
Like so, there was some cool hip 90s dude that told you how to say it correctly. Granada, Soldis, Trazia, Valis, the Phantasm Soldier, and Valis Free. Now, there's a few games on there that I'm just never going to be interested in, JRPG type games, but it is what it is. There's 10 games I just sort of read out there. But a lot of these games never got released on Western shores at all. And a lot of these games I've never heard of at all. When you get the collection, it sounds like I'm shilling for the company. I really am not. But when you get these collections like this, so I picked up the Worms one, and oh wow, I didn't even realize that one comes with a poster. Okay, but you get these little booklets that tell you a tiny little bit about the company. It tells you a little bit about each game, and obviously they have actual the controls in there and stuff like that. But you feel like you're actually getting a piece of history, and you're actually learning about retro games for a silly cheap price. I mean, I always say it, but these are like 15 quid a pop. They're like, at that point, the reason why you don't hear people saying, you can hack your Evercade to play these sort of games is because no one needs to. They're so cheap to do these games. Yes, everyone knows you can hack them and whatever else, but you don't need to. That's not why people buy these consoles. People buy these consoles to experience games that either they had, or in this instance, that they didn't know about. And I didn't know about the majority of these games or this company. These are all incredibly rare games. If you were going to buy them physically, the little blurb that it came with boasts that if you was going to buy them all complete in box, you'd be paying well over $1,400.
Crazy.
Which is a bit ridiculous. But I mean, it's a super rare collection of games that for the most part I don't know about, and I'm about to learn about it. And how can I not be excited for that? And it's dirt cheap. So continue doing this. Continue doing that mix of games I know about from companies that I know about, mixed with things like this that I honestly didn't really know too much about at all. Because I'm willing to drop the few quid it costs to get the console and try them out.
Yeah, I mean, like, out of all of the collections that Evercade's released, there's been usually a game I recognise, and this is no different, because I've heard of El Viento, Soldis, which is actually in Europe is called Soul Feast and was released on the Mega CD. Arcus Odyssey, Dino Land is the pinball like spin-off of Dino City, wasn't it? I believe the characters are the same of the mascots. I know it was changed for the US and what have you, but what I love about this is, if I was going to assemble like an emulation collection, let's just say I pick up my PSP and I just go, I'm going to play some emulated games and I'm going to fill my list with a bunch of games that I remember. I'm never going to include stuff like Soul Feast, Dino Land,
Final Zone,
because
Tracia,
because I've got no real attachment to those. But again, Evercade really smashes what they are all about by creating this curated selection of games that they think you're going to enjoy. It's the same kind of genres that you used to, like platformers, RPGs, fighting games, pinball, and they're presenting it in a way which basically says, right, low cost of entry, give these games a go. We think you'll love them. And you know, judging by the video that's playing with all of these games, some of these are going, oh, I remember that. I just never knew the name of it.
Yeah.
Now I get to, you know, have a copy of that game without having to traipse through eBay and paying $1,400, which I'm never going to do, just to play the likes of El Viento. So again, Evercade, smashing it. Keep it up.
It's one of those things. I mean, being someone that collects a lot of retro stuff and even re-releases of classic retro stuff, there's a lot of people out there, that companies out there that put out like Earthworm Jim again on a new cartridge. Now, I am someone that would want to buy that because I'm a huge fan of the original Earthworm Jim games, but it's like £100, and I'm like, it's so over the top, and it's just not needed for the price that it's being put out for. But you get those games on Earthworm Jim is one of those games that you get on this system, and it's like £15 a pop plus another 5 games. It comes in a nice box, and most importantly, it plays how it should be played. There's no very major noticeable badness. Let's bring out that word, shall we? Badness to it. It works. It works. So it's a new collection of games from a company I know very little about, from games I've hardly ever played. Some of them I do recognise, but for the most part I don't, in all honesty. So it's a new collection, and I think this is the kind of stuff we want to see more of in the retro community, rather than extremely expensive Super Nintendo Mega Drive cartridges or whatever else it may be, of a game that you're told is rare, or that is a good game so you must get it. This is a cool way of experiencing new games. I like it. Definitely.
Well into this.
Yeah, there we go. Moving on to our next topic. Actually, this is one that you was quite excited about this one, if I'm not mistaken. If I can actually open up the article. Here we go.
I love stuff like this where hackers just have a play and they turn something into something else. So ignore the title. If you're watching the screen and you see the words Game Boy, it is not a Game Boy. It's definitely the Game Boy knockoff.
Yeah, you see them all. I actually had this when I was younger. My auntie bought this for me, this exact one. And if you go on AliExpress, you can pick them up for like £2 or £3. They've been making this exact model with the little bump in the middle forever.
Yes. I remember seeing these as early as the 90s. The little bump consoles. So these are like the Brick Breakers or the Tetris clones that you'd be able to buy at like seaside shops for about a tenner, and then you realise it's not a Game Boy, and then you throw it in the bin. It's that kind of thing. But what this gentleman has done, that's Ian Charnas of YouTube. I'm not sure if it's considered fame or not, but we'll be friendly. He has taken a nuclear material, technically nuclear. It's tritium.
Right.
Which is a phosphorescent material often used in watches to illuminate the watch face without the need for LEDs, and has used that to power one of these Tetris knockoffs. It's quite funny because it's like, it works out to about 1.5 microwatts of electricity, which is nothing really.
Yeah.
It's enough to power the device for 55 minutes. And to recharge it, it will take you 2 months on charge. So it's not really the kind of thing that's going to make you survive an apocalypse. But if anything, it'll give you something to break up the mundanity once it truly comes around. So I just thought it was a really cool thing. Great to see ingenuity at play, especially when it's using highly hazardous materials. That's always fun. So
absolutely, it's just stupid, but and it's the perfect YouTube video to make, is guaranteed views, something like this, because no one else does this at all, and I like it. It's really really cool seeing this sort of stuff. But I mean, absolutely no practicality to it anyway at all, rather than the fact that can we get it to run. I'm very surprised he didn't do Doom, in all honesty, like some kind of Doom, even if it's like calculator Doom, whatever, just so like, hey, we got Doom running nuclear, or whatever. But
that'd be the next step. You gotta do these in baby steps.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, it's cool. It's silly and it's cool. I like it. I like it a lot. And, well done, Grizzly, for choosing that one, because that's a cool little positive topic. As is the last topic we're going to be chatting about, guys. And, Grizzly, take it away, mate.
I'm really happy to see this one. So this is, this topic's mostly about copyright laws in Japan. So it's better if we preface with a bit of detail. So currently in Japanese law, a copyright holder needs to be contacted if you wish to use that copyrighted work. So let's just say we're talking about, say, a Mega Drive game that was only released in Japan. In this case, a little game called Star Cruiser. This game was going to be included on the Mega Drive Mini console. But because of ambiguity about who exactly could permit a reissue, they instead decided not to, because the Japanese law would have forbidden it. If that game was released without prior consent, then there could have been quite a big lawsuit, or, you know, just general harm or injury caused. And we're talking legal injury, not like literally they're going to break someone's legs or anything. In a figurative sense, we do know what the Yakuza are like. So, yeah. So what they've done in Japan is that they're looking at a bill. It hasn't been actioned yet, but it's got a lot of steam behind it. Is that they are actioning or trying to action a centralized copyright body. So in a case where the original copyright owner is either hard to contact or unable to be contacted because of issues of mortality, you know, they died, or they're just unknown, because bear in mind, back in the day, Japanese companies would actually withhold the identities of their staff because they didn't want them to be poached. That's why you see all of those crazy names like Nakazu in the Super Mario 2 credits. They just don't want you knowing who made these games, because, well, other Japanese companies could come along and give them a better offer, and then they'd lose all of their talent. That's just the way it was. So yeah, they're looking at creating the centralized body to allow for copyright disputes to go through a lot smoother. So that could actually lead to more re-releases of older Japanese-only content for the first time in the West, and of course more so in Japan. We could be seeing a lot more stuff come to the likes of the Evercade, to the PlayStation stores. You could be seeing the rare kind of stuff, that like the Castlevania exclusives, that kind of thing that just never left the Far East. And I think that's a great thing to see. So really excited to see whether this passes, and I'm equally excited to see if anything new comes out as a result. So yeah,
I've got nothing to add. It's it's good.
It's a great thing. Yeah,
it's a good thing.
I think the question would be, what is exclusive in Japan? And I know, Dan, you've got a lot of knowledge about games that have been released exclusively in Japan.
No, don't put me on the spot. I don't know. I don't know. I know someone mentioned the Discworld series. No one actually knows who owns that. And I know it's like, if that sort of thing happened over here, which it should, the original early Discworld games. I don't know in Japan, what ones are there? I know there's a lot of collectors out there in Japan that like to collect these sort of rare games, but unlike people in the West, it's very frowned upon in Western shores, that when you do get a very rare game that no one else has, and we always talk about it on the show, you know, with like Castlevania Dreamcast releases and God knows whatever else, and early versions of Star Fox Adventures and stuff. Over in Japan, it's very much more like, look at my collection of games that have never been released, and they're just stuck to this one person. And a lot of the time, that's because these companies can't release them, and they just get forgotten about. When that person's gone, so are those games. It's just it's the way the Japanese gamers are. They like to collect games that no one else has and no one else is ever gonna have. It's not good enough to just have a physical copy of something and then put the ROM online. No, they want the physical thing. I'm not saying that's everyone. I'm not tarnishing everyone with the same brush, but that's just the mentality that I have seen in the past, because I know sometimes when people's PCs have been hacked in Japan, mental leaks of games that you didn't even know exist start dropping out, and hopefully doing with this sort of thing, that will hopefully negate some of that that closed collectors out there.
You can imagine all of the early code that just hasn't been seen because it hasn't left the Far East. Bearing in mind that a lot of the time we saw games early enough in the US and UK, it was because of shows like E3. So all we had was the demo builds. But in reality, all of the real beta stuff and the alpha stuff was all coded in Japan and brought over, especially in the earlier days when Japan ruled the roost when it came to video games. So can you imagine the content that's out there that could just be discovered as a result of this law change?
It's
brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know someone just mentioned Sega Gaga, but that's a very different thing because we know
that's
Sega
localization.
own that. Yeah. And I want that game so much. But yeah, good. What else is there to say? Good. Nice.
I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Slopescast, the retro gaming news show with myself, DJ Slope, and my co-host Grizzly Crichton, recorded live on Twitch every single Tuesday night. If you want to listen in live, then make your way over to twitch.tv/Slopes Game Room at 9 PM UK time, 1 PM Pacific Standard Time, and 4 PM Eastern Standard Time. And as stated, if you want to be in a chance to be on a future episode, then please do consider supporting the show on Patreon or as a YouTube member. And finally, if you do have any news stories for us, then please do feel free to drop them in the dedicated rooms over on Discord at discord.gg/Slopes Game Room. And until next time, guys, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.